Welcome to Pure Hustle Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando, and we're on episode 110.
What does that mean?
110.
Yeah, episode 110. Here we go. I'm super excited.
110.
Yeah.
100. So if you do the math, that's a lot of Pure Hustle podcasts to listen to.
Yeah, that was a very mathematical answer there. I like that. I wish
I don't want to calculate
if you calculate this, the answer is a lot. So, yeah, there's a lot of content out there. And I'm really excited for this one because this is our first update episode of the new year 2020. And I feel like we have a lot to update here. So I'm really, really excited. Well, how's it been for you since we last talked?
Before we get started, though, you've noticed our new backdrop, right? We kind of alluded to it last time, but I think we're missing something.
What are we missing?
This is what we're missing.
Oh gosh, I'm always scared when Orlando decides.
So you're watching the podcast. If you're listening, you can't watch the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, listening, I think we need one of these.
So Orlando's got a fingerling here. So is this just one of those things to remind you of failures? And
it's like our meme. It's like a Pure Hustle podcast meme.
So then, do we want to keep it in the box, or do we want to like open it and put it up there? What do you think?
Let's keep it in the box for now, just because it looks really.
He's still
obnoxious.
hoping that one day. So are we going to take He-Man down? Is that what we're doing?
We can't take He-Man down. And we got to keep Dragon Ball Z alarm clock up.
We're going to put it in the middle there?
You don't want to just put it right here?
Oh, no, man.
No? Okay. So right now, if you're listening to the podcast, we're trying to move it to our back. There we go. See, in between He-Man and Dragon Ball Z, we got our fingerling.
I like it. Well, that'll be a constant reminder. Every time Orlando makes a mistake, I'm just going to point at the fingerling and go, I just
thought it needed a little color on the wall. So, there we go.
My first experience with fingerlings was even before I got into reselling. They were doing, what were those? Amazon for a while was doing those like, what were they, treasure trucks or something like that?
Oh, they still do those. I get those alerts all the time.
And I remember like it was like all over social media that like they had a treasure truck in our area that had fingerlings and people were going crazy for them. And I was like, man, I bet you could resell those for a ton of money.
You could at a certain point in time. Yeah.
But anyways, so here we are, man. Here we are. Episode 110, update episode. And I'm super excited because I've got a lot to talk about. I'm sure you do too. Because as you guys all know, if you've been listening to the podcast, I took an awesome trip over the Christmas break where I got to go to Colorado and visit some family and stop at some thrift stores outside of the San Diego area. And it was definitely a different experience. So I'm super excited to talk about some of that stuff and a few other crazy things that have happened since then. But what's new with you?
Well, here's the thing. My life wasn't as exciting as yours. So it's kind of, do we want to start with?
I would have to say you hustled harder. That's for sure.
Maybe I would say that's the part that's kind of interesting. I really have taken it easy the last week and a half.
How does that feel?
It's good. It's kind of, I shouldn't be able to. That's the hard part. Like I always feel like I need to do something. I need to be doing more. And I think it's part of the, I love what I do. And so to me, to take a break, and I let me rephrase it. So when I'm with my kids, like I don't even think about working, right? It's kind of nice. But when it's just me, that's when I'm like, all right, I need to be out there because it feels weird. Like the problem I have right now, I can't just binge Netflix or Hulu or Disney Plus or, whatever.
That's probably a good thing.
Well, what I mean is I'll binge, but I'm always doing something. So whether it's I'm doing some OA sourcing, whether it's I'm listing something, whether it's, I'm packing stuff, whether I'm taking pictures for eBay, I always find myself having to do something. I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. Is that you, or are you able to actually just sit there and just to watch something and enjoy it?
Yeah, I think there's a fine balance because I'm the same way. A lot of times I don't like to, and a lot of times it's good things. Like I'm reading, intellectual articles or listening to challenging podcasts, all these things,
Mike,
while I'm supposed to be like,
like I'm not, like I don't do.
No, I'm not
just joking. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Like my wife always like she notices like I'll put on. She has a pair of AirPods. I don't. I have wired ones still. I actually have some Bluetooth headphones, but I don't use them very much. But anyways, I'll steal her AirPods. I'll put them in. I'll always volunteer like, yeah, I'll do the dishes. I'll do whatever. And while I'm doing chores, I always put in a headphone. And I can't just do a chore. Like I have to be like catching up on, podcasts or doing some news.
But isn't that weird? That's the society we're in now. Yeah, like we always have to be multitasking.
Yeah, you're constantly consuming. And I do think there's a fine balance between being a sloth and lazy, and working too hard, and then trying to find that middle ground, right? That middle ground can go either direction. And I feel like sometimes, not always, but sometimes you need to get to that place, even if it's for a short period of time, where you are resting and relaxing. And I'm not the kind of person to say like, just do nothing. Obviously, I think that's terrible. But at the same time, I think there's probably, whether it's a day every week or a couple of days every month, or however a weekend, however you work it out, where you can kind of detach from stuff and actually be more productive when you come back, because you've kind of given yourself a chance to refresh. But it takes a lot of effort sometimes, because we have this idea that the more we're doing, the better things are going to be, which is oftentimes true. But just like anything else, like sometimes I'm a firm believer that like 6 hours of sleep, even though that's like physically, I want more than that. Like if I sleep 8 hours, and part of this is probably just because I've watched enough YouTube videos where they kind of like force you to believe that, but like the wealthiest, most successful people, they don't sleep 8 hours. They just can't.
That's what I'm struggling with right now. So to be completely frank, I watched a few videos where it's like, it was Elon Musk, and it was, I think, like Steve Harvey, and I don't know why I threw Steve Harvey, but he was one of the people, Will Smith, The Rock, and they're like, yeah, if you got to work like never before. And you don't need 8 hours of sleep and da-da-da. And I gravitate towards that.
Yeah.
And so that's been my issue, is that, I did slow down. If you've been following us on Instagram, you've noticed I've talked about, I did no reselling related stuff today. But that's been, not that I'm not telling the truth, but I haven't done anything super intensive reselling. I've always been doing something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's good. But I would say maybe even with that, like, 'cause I'm the kind of person who does the 6 hours sleep a night, and I make sure that I'm as productive as I can be during the day. I know in the morning I'm most productive, so I get the most challenging things done. But if it's once a week or once every 2 weeks, where it's like, you know what, I'm going to get a full 10 hours sleep. Like,
how do you do that? I can't think of the last time I've slept more than 8 hours. I seriously can't.
Well, I don't think I sleep more than 8 hours.
I think in over a decade. The last time was when I went on an overnight camping trip, and I did paintballing for 16 hours. I slept for 14 hours. Yeah. That's like the last time I can.
To be realistic, like in the most recent past, and by recent past I mean like the last several years, 10 hours never happens because I'm a parent, and
especially when you have
jobs
kids
and stuff. But even 8 hours compared to 6 hours can make a difference sometimes, right? When it's like, I'm going to take a day, and then when you do that occasionally, and you take some time off, and you really take some time off, then you can kind of come back, recharge, fully ready to go. And this even back, in the teaching world, that sometimes that 2-week break that you get during Christmas time is what you need to come back in the beginning of a new year, a new semester, and be like enthusiastic again, and like ready to teach and excited again. Whereas by the end, you're like, ugh. Now you could have kept grinding it out all year long, but that 2 weeks actually makes you a better teacher, right? So the same could be true for reselling. And I'm not saying you got to take a lot of time off, but it is probably wise to slow down. Not all the time. If you're finding yourself coming up with excuses to slow down, then you probably have the opposite problem. You probably need to ramp it up a little bit. But if you're always go, 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 and you have to like force yourself to slow down, then it's probably a good indication that you could use a little bit of a slowdown every once in a while, just to kind of recharge. And you'd be surprised at how much difference it'll make once you get back active. You're like, I'm ready to go again.
Yeah. But again, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Here's the thing. I think right now, I think my kids are great for me to slow down. Because if I didn't have kids, I'm pretty sure I would be hustling every single day. Right. And, now the other part is too, I do have good friends that I hang out with. And so when I do that, then I'm not. Right. Because they'll call me on it. They're like, Orlando, are you on your phone? Like, what are you do? Like, why are you on social media? Like, what are you doing? Right. And that's the other component, is our social media piece. Like that's increased since we started the podcast.
Yep.
Right. I mean, because now we're adding TikTok, and then on top of that, trying to get back to more DMs, as we have more followers, which we're totally fine with. but that adds another component. So that's another thing you want to think about, because a lot of you that follow us also are, branching out, doing YouTube or doing podcast, or, trying to grow your Instagram profile and so on, is that you got to kind of, measure, yep, how much of that time do you want to spend doing that? And if, you follow like advice of individuals like Gary Vee, who says you need to have at the least 25 pieces of content a day to 100, that's a lot of work.
Oh, that's crazy.
100's a lot. All right. Anyways, we're kind of, moving away from what we're going to talk about. All right. So you had asked me what's going on with me. And so we'll start with me, because my story isn't as exciting as yours. So I'm beginning to I'm not moving away from Amazon right now. And I'm not moving away because Amazon wasn't good to me. Amazon was phenomenal in Q4. But right now, and I don't know where I'm going to land on this, but I've had some really great sales on eBay lately, and I'll be frank with you guys. I have not been the best eBay seller, in the sense that, there's a lot of you that listen to us that you're always like, hey, I list 25 to 50 items a day. I can't say I have listed 25 to 50 items a day probably in the last 3 months. I could say maybe I've listed, maybe on a good day, 10 or 15, but I've kind of been lax about it. And so as I've been lax about it, and now, moving away from Q4, and we'll have our Q4 episode and talk about what worked, what didn't work, and what really worked. Where was I going with this? I was going to the fact, okay, I really want to know what I can do with eBay if I just focus on eBay. Now, I'm not there yet. So, because, I'll talk about this more, but, what you find with Amazon is you can take 10 steps forward and you can go 5 steps back really fast on Amazon. With eBay, I really find that if you get momentum going, that momentum continues. And I think that momentum can still continue even when we hit summer slowdown, because we talk about June. You had a good June, didn't you, this past June?
Yeah, it was
June was one of my best months. Yeah, same with me. June was one of my best months. But it was because I put in a ton of work, because I was so worried about how things were going to work out, and it ended up being one of my best months. So I've been contemplating that. I also have come across some great scores, which I'm saving for another podcast, just because I want to see how things land. And I'm going to talk about how I'm switching up eBay, but I'm really trying to fine tune eBay a little bit more, because there's some things that I'm still all about listen and forget it. But there's other things that I'm like, you know what? I want to move things. So I've been moving things faster. The other thing is right now that I'm dealing with is returns. And we're going to have a whole theme episode about returns. Doesn't that sound exciting?
It sounds terrible.
Tune in. It's going to be great. But, what I have not enjoyed about returns is, with eBay returns, I feel like it's still salvageable. With Amazon returns, I think some are still salvageable, but man, I'm just struggling with that word right now. But what I'm finding is that overall, I think with eBay, you can pretty much redeem anything, right? You get a return. For the most part, that item isn't going to be destroyed, because that individual wants that return full back, right? They want their full refund. Right, especially, now that we can give back percentages, if you're a top-rated seller who offers returns, it's doable. But if you're on Amazon, you can file a case with Amazon, and a lot of times Amazon will reimburse you. But man, some of the stuff I get back, I'm like, what in the world? What were these people thinking? Why did they think this was okay? No. Right, and so the other thing is, and I'm gonna save this. I keep saying this, but I don't want to kind of throw our Q4 episode away. Is that, on eBay, when somebody buys something, they know what they're buying. They, for the most part, know the price of that item, right? There's no mystery behind it. So I'm going to explain something to you. So on Amazon, right, Q4, one of the reasons we're able to make a lot of money is we're able to sell things at a higher than normal price because of the holiday season. But what happens after Christmas is over, a lot of people are like, did I really spend that much money on that item?
They return it and then get it cheaper now that it's back in stock. Correct.
Right? Or there's a clearance sale or whatever, right? But on eBay, you don't see a lot of that action. Right? So anyways, those are some things, we'll share later on. But so right now, I'm really excited because I know for this next week, I'm still going to do Amazon sourcing. I'm trying to send in still my 1 shipment a week, but I'm really trying to build my eBay, and I'll share later what my goals are going to be. But I know I told you, it's not as exciting. I want to hear about your road trip. So talk to me about your road trip.
Well, I'll talk about the road trip a little bit more when we get to like specific. Well, I guess we're talking about random stories. So I got one that before the road trip even
This is update time. Are we already at random stories? Do we have a set schedule?
I guess not really. Okay, so I'll do road trip and then I'll do random story. So, yeah, the road trip was great, man. So we went to Colorado to visit my mom, and we have a pretty good size SUV. It's a large SUV, and we took just enough stuff to make it, right? Like we tried to pack really light and minimal because we knew we were going to fill up the car. And when we got there, in fact, we were planning on buying like a roof like bag.
Okay, let's pause a little bit, Mike. A year ago, would you have had the same scenario?
Oh, no way. No way.
Would you have even considered like we need a pack light too because we're going to fill up an SUV?
Yeah, no, I mean, for sure not. And even the idea that like we're going to make so much off of this trip, it not only just paid for the trip, but like beyond, right? And so our original plan, our thought was we were going to stop on the way back in Utah because we know that Utah is really big outdoorsy. There's lots of like hiking and things like that. So there's a lot of brands, or likely to be more brands there. But when we were starting to leave and I was routing out where the thrift stores were, I noticed two things. One, the stops along the way, like what was actually off the road that we were on, there weren't very many thrift stores close in Utah that we were going to actually be able to make before they closed, because we were trying to get through Utah to Nevada to stay the night. And so most of the thrift stores that were close right off of the highway we were on were in Colorado. And that's where we were at. So we're like, well, let's just stop in Colorado and hit up these thrift stores. We crushed it in Colorado. So luckily we were going to buy a bag, and we told my mom before we were going up there that we were planning on buying this bag. She's like, oh, I've got a few of them. You can just have one of mine. And she had like a huge rooftop bag that we were able to like put on our roof. We actually packed all of our stuff in that so that our trunk was empty. So
I kind of know the answer to this question because Mike is awesome. By the way, Mike.
Oh, thank you.
He is, but Mike, reached out to me on New Year's Day, and he's like, hey, what are you doing? And if you follow us on Instagram, you only caught the first part. Mike's like, hey, let's go on a hike. So we went hiking. Right. And that's a great way to start the new year. Yeah. But then he invites me over, and I ate, and this is not related, but I wanted to share so a lot of people, it's so funny because they think about us, like when we get into it on the podcast, they're kind of like, whoa, I wonder
if we hate each other.
Yeah. But Mike and I so we're like family. I'm putting words into your mouth.
No, for sure.
But Mike invited me over after, and he's like, hey, we're going to have some roast beef sandwiches. So I'm thinking.
I didn't say roast beef sandwiches. I said, do you want to come over for lunch? We're having roast beef.
Okay. So in my mind, I'm like, hey, we're going to go back to where the studio is, and we're going to have cold cut sandwiches and just chill. No, we go over, and it's like full on. Like it's like Thanksgiving part 3, because I already went over. Wasn't I over for? No, I was over at somebody else's house for Christmas, but I was over for Thanksgiving. Yep. And why am I sharing all this? Oh, because I'm sharing. I'm sharing all this because I know how his family feels about reselling, because we're sitting there. I'm taking over the conversation. I'm sorry, but I thought this was pretty awesome.
No, go for it.
Because I was going to ask you, how's your family feel about this? But I already know, because we're sitting there and we're having this amazing meal. So by the way, Mike's a good friend, had me over. It was phenomenal. The whole family, we all get it was great. But they're talking about, I heard somebody was like, oh, I could have packed that item and shipped it out for you guys.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, what? You have people in your family shipping out stuff for you? Right?
Yeah. My in-laws are great. So there's a lot of times when we're going to be out of town. So we'll pack something, but we're not going to be around to actually get it to the UPS store on time. So we'll ask my brother-in-law or my father-in-law, I'm like, hey, can you drop this off at the UPS store? And they'll take care of it. So yeah, they've been super great for us. And then.
So your family believes in what you're doing.
Yeah,
now.
For sure. And then it was my mom. So not my in-law, my mom, that I told about wanting to get this bag. And so she just let us have one of hers. She had a couple of them that she didn't need. And so we packed in all of our luggage. Judah got a bunch of them. We went to grandma's right after Christmas, literally a couple days after Christmas. So of course there's Christmas toys for him and stuff like that. So we loaded that up and then still left some space for things at thrift stores. And then we're able to fill that up even more with thrift store stuff. And then our whole trunk of our car, we just filled up thrift store stuff. Even while we were at my mom's house, we asked hey, is there, I looked, there's a Goodwill. I'm like, hey, can we all go to the Goodwill? And so we went.
Store?
Yeah, the store that shall not be named. So we went to the store that shall not be named, and it was really good out there in Colorado. So we loaded up on a bunch of stuff there. So that went in the bag. And so I forgot to get a picture of the bag on top of the car because it was like, and there's probably 80% of our listeners are like, yeah, who cares? But for a San Diegan, it was so cold. It was like at times, at one point we saw it was like, I think -2 or something crazy like that. And then I think the highest it got was like 25 or 26 while we were there. And then with the wind chill, it's like 13. It was like, this is ridiculous. So like every time I was outside of the car and I could have taken a picture of it, I was like, yep, nope, I just want to run into the gas station.
It would have been a great Instagram post.
It would have been, but I did take a picture inside the car because it was nice and warm there. But one thing I'd say about thrift stores in at least Colorado, I mean, I don't know about every state, but it's very different than California. It was like, I walked in and it was like somebody just vomited Patagonia and North Face everywhere.
All the words vomited.
Yeah, it was just like everywhere. Like every rack, I'm like Patagonia, North Face, Columbia. Like it's just like the brands they had there is just stuff we don't see here very often, right? So it was a lot of fun to do that. And man, while I was there, I had some of the craziest things happen. So we went to one thrift store that had there was like 2 stores. It wasn't like a big name chain. It was like obviously like a local, and there's 2 of them about 25 miles apart. And this one thrift store that we went into, we filled up with tons and tons of stuff. I mean, I think we spent like $500 at this thrift store, which think about it, like at a thrift store, $500 plus almost everything we bought was at least 50% off. Some of it was 75% off.
Nice.
So that just tells you like how many items we purchased. So then I see, as I'm looking on the route, I see the same name of the store and it says 2. So it's like the sister store. It's like their second store they opened. So we're like, man, we had such success here. We should go to this other one. Okay. We go to this other store, and at the first store, we found they had these religious books that were like packaged up. I don't want to give the specific one out because I don't want to give away my niche, because this is going to be my first Amazon shipment. But
Super Bolo. If you want to join us, Bolo Group's opening tomorrow. First 10.
That's not true. So anyway, so I found these books and they're packaged, they're sealed, and they're only asking $3 each for them, right? I'm like, oh, this is sweet. But they only had 3, but I looked up comps. It's a really low ranking book on Amazon. I'm like, I'm just going to buy these for $3.
What are the odds, though, that you found a low-ranking book for one of your first shipments to Amazon?
It's crazy. But it's only 3 of them, so it's not like the end of the world or like something that amazing. So we buy these 3, we fill up our car, we go to this next store, and as we're buying stuff, and my son is like just playing with the toys, I'm kind of watching him, my wife's actually digging through the racks. We have so many things that the lady at the register like helped us carry bags to like hold back there while we kept looking for more things. Anyways, as we're getting close to walking to the register, I see like a bookshelf with all these books, and then like the bottom half of it were like religious books, and then the whole bottom shelf of this thing was the same edition of the book, all sealed, that I bought at the first place. So I'm thinking, sweet, $3 a book. I'm just going to buy them all. But I look at the package, there's no price on them. So I asked the lady, I'm like, hey, how much are the books? And she goes, oh, we don't charge for religious books. And I'm thinking, okay, like this isn't going to work. I understand like a place would do something like this because they're trying to like help, people out or whatever. So I'm not going to just not give you some money. So we asked like, no, we want to buy, like, we don't just want one. She said, you could just have one. We said like, we want to buy all of these. And she goes, well, since we don't charge for them, like I guess you could just have them. And we didn't feel right about that. We're like, like we paid $3 the other place. Could we just give you a donation to the store? Like, would you accept if you're willing to get rid of them? I mean, you could tell it's just one and that's fine. Like we'll just take the one. And we'll still give you the donation for it. But I said, like, would you be willing to give us all of them? And she's like, yeah. She goes, but $3 is too much. Like since we don't charge for them, I'd feel bad taking that. We're like, well, 2? She goes, no, that's still too much. So we're like, 1, right? Like we're trying, like,
I've seriously, in all my time recently, I've never had a scenario like
it's like reverse negotiating, right? Like, because we want it. I mean, obviously they're doing something really nice here. And there's probably going to be some listeners like, I can't believe you bought those, but it was just a fluke thing that they had these there. You know what I mean? And it's a super niche book that it's not like everybody's going for, and it's going to like be this relevant to everybody. So, I didn't feel bad. We gave the donation to the store. We would have paid them more, but she wouldn't take it. And as we're like walking this stuff up, another employee walks by and we've got all of them. I'm trying to like hold them. I think there was 14 of them is how many I got at this store. So 14 at one for $1 each, 3 at the other for $3 each. And as I'm like holding these, like they're almost falling out of my hands because they're really big. Another employee walks by and goes, "Oh, there's a limit of 1 per customer." And we're like, this is awkward, right? So we're like, we're actually buying these. And he's like, "Oh, okay." And then so he helped us carry them over to the shelf and we were checking out. And then the craziest part was, and again, we didn't ask for anything. This lady was just the greatest cash register employee I've ever experienced. I don't know. She was the greatest employee that was working on a cash register, right, at the time. She repriced everything. So most of the stuff we bought was like 50% off. A couple of things weren't. But she would look at the prices and she would say things like, "Oh, wow, this is a really nice jacket." And we're talking like it's all Patagonia, it's all North Face, it's all Columbia, like brand new with tags. We got a couple of Lululemon. We got like really nice brands, some new with tags, some not, but the ones that weren't were in good shape. And she's like, "Hey, this is just too much. We're asking too much for this." So she put in 50% off and then gave us 50% off of that. So we got items that were like originally priced at 30. So it went down to 15 for the half off and she gave us another half off. So we ended up paying, I think like $160 this place. And we were expecting like another 500.
Okay, there's 2 things I want to add here. Number 1, you're the antithesis to Gary Vee. So Gary Vee on his trash talk videos, right? He's always going to garage sales like, she wanted 15, she didn't get it. Mike's version is, she wanted $1, she got it. I mean, it's just totally different. The other part is why I love that we have a podcast that's 2 of us is that if it was just you, like it'd be hard to believe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, but at least I can verify what you're telling me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Or whenever I see something, you can validate and go, okay, Orlando is obviously telling the truth because I've seen it with my own eyes. Right. So anyway, so I'm glad because this story is so out there.
It's pretty crazy.
It's so out there, but it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. I mean, it was cool seeing all these brands. And honestly, it probably could have spent a lot longer, but we had, I think, a 10-hour car ride that day. And we were just like, you know what? We can't spend an hour in each store going. So we were just kind of looking for the low-hanging fruit. And it's really nice when the low-hanging fruit is like Patagonia and North Face. You know,
so
like
wild.
We probably could have dug through and found like more obscure brands that like sell for even more, but it just wasn't worth our time. I mean, actually, I'm sure it would have been worth our time, but it wasn't for us at the moment. So
now, what about shoes? How were shoes? Did you look at shoes?
Shoes were overpriced.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we picked up any shoes. Maybe 1 pair. I'm trying to remember. But yeah, for the most part, the shoes were kind of comparable to like the prices here at the store that should not be named.
Okay.
Some of them were still half off, but a lot of them, they did have nicer brands. I mean, that's for sure. But at the same time, the prices were just a little bit too high for used shoes. And used shoes is one of those things like we've done really well on. We have several totes full of used shoes, but it's one of those things that you've got to get them at rock bottom prices to make it worth it. Cause you can sit, I mean, I there's times I sit on shoes forever and they'll eventually sell and it's like, I'll make $20 profit off of it if I bought it for $5, right? Which is fine for me. Like I have no problem making the $20 profit on shoes. Cause occasionally some of them you make $30 or $40 profit. But if I'm paying $20 for shoes to maybe make $5 or $10 a year or two from now, like it's just not worth it.
Agreed. It's an incredible story.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, we enjoyed it. And our plan now, like we're so like, this was so successful. And maybe this was just a one-off thing, but we were so successful with the brands that we got there that we're planning probably this summer. I'm actually going to either buy or build a trailer. And then my goal is to put like a rooftop tent on the top of it so we could do some like camping with this trailer too. But have the whole inside of it like a 4 foot by 8 foot. So nothing huge, something I could pull behind on my SUV. And then we're going to take a couple of weeks and we're going to go back up to Colorado, visit my mom. We're going to circle down to Texas, visit my dad. And then we're going to head home and just be hitting thrift stores the whole way, hopefully filling up that trailer and our SUV and the rooftop bag that we have on top of our SUV. Because I mean, I'd say we probably made net easy $1,500 to $2,000 in maybe 3 hours inside of thrift stores. Like it was unreal.
No, I get it. I mean, that was one of my first big breaks on Amazon was, I want to say it was like 6 years ago. I went to an AP reading. I had to grade exams, which was horrible. So I graded about, I think 500 or so essays, the exact same essay. And that's all I did for, I think, 5 days straight. Now, they gave you nice breaks in between, But every night I went sourcing. I hit up every single Savers in Utah, whatever. And I remember there was so much good stuff that I shipped into Amazon. And then my 2 luggages were packed so full that one of them broke open inside the airplane of thrift stuff. And they actually like duct taped my suitcase together by the time I got it back when I got it from the airport.
That's pretty funny.
And I made a killing. I like you. I spent maybe, I'm trying to remember. As far as eBay stuff, maybe I spent $500 and I easily broke $2,000.
Yeah.
On Amazon, I probably spent $1,000 to $2,000 and I easily made $4,000 to $5,000.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah. So hey, good for all of you that are out there.
Yeah. Lucky duckies. But to be honest, I can't be that jealous because the weather was horrendous and I would rather have my weather and occasionally have to drive out there to get those sweet deals.
I don't know. I struggle, man. Like the other day, I kind of, so back in the day, I used to watch a lot of House Hunters. So I put it on and I'm watching this episode, and those of you that live in Texas can relate. Like John and Susie are looking to downsize their home. And they're looking at this home, 3,300 square foot for a large price of $450,000.
I think that's what
I'm like, what?
The condo that I was renting before I moved to the trailer was going. The ones the same size in that same complex were going for about $450,000 to $500,000, and they were 1,100 square foot 2-bedroom condos.
Yeah, I know it,
with a 1-car garage.
Yep. So I'm going, wow. And here's the thing, like. Yeah, I get it. Like one of the reasons I haven't moved, I mean, I have multiple reasons, but one of the reasons is that I know where things are.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so if I need a source, I know exactly where to go and I can quickly source items. Like it's not a problem ever for me. The other thing is, I do enjoy the fact that if I wanted to, not that I do these things, but if I wanted to surf and snowboard and go to the desert, I could do all of that in one day. True. I mean, it'd be kind of crazy, but you could if you wanted to in California, along with paying a ton of money for gas and electricity. Yeah. And
so, if you're a reseller, stay out of California is what we're saying.
Yeah, if you're looking to scale your property, unless you're one of those big timers that makes 6 to 7 figures net, then yeah, probably shouldn't.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying resellers stay out of Southern California. Not because the prices are high, but just stay out. Go away.
You're claiming our territory. Is that what you're saying? So
no, you're welcome. You guys can come anytime.
Well, thanks, Mike. I'm sure our listeners are grateful to be able to move to overpriced California.
Yep. The invitation has been extended. Come hang out at the Pierce Podcast studio sometime.
So yeah, there's no. Was that your random story packed all into one?
Nope.
Okay, all right.
Give my random story yet.
So I don't have. So my stuff is so like. This should just be Mike's amazing life story. But so I got 2 things.
That'll be a different show. Welcome to the Amazing Mike podcast.
There you go. So I had 2 scenarios here. I just wanted to share these because, and I shared some of this on Instagram a little bit, but so one thing is, I talked about this in the previous podcast, how I'm moving more to buy it now. Right. And I'm eliminating best offer. Now, I'm only doing this on items that are $30 and less and are basically retail arbitrage new with tags. If it's somebody vintage, I'm keeping the best offer because sometimes like we price things and we really don't know, right? We're just aiming high and seeing where the market decides. But on newer items, like you pretty much know, right? And I don't want to haggle with people. Like I'm just done. So I shared that in the last podcast. But here's the interesting thing. So I had this huge haul. I mean, I bought all kinds of stuff. And in this huge haul, I bought these Golf Pals animal club covers. So one was like a kangaroo, an eagle, an otter. But here's the funny thing with some of these things are private label. And they're private label because they're misspelled so bad. You know what I mean? So one of them was like sea otter, right? And it would have been like, it wasn't this one, but I'll give you an example. It was spelled out sea otter. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I list these items.
A little different.
So one of them was a black rhino. So, so it was this black rhinoceros with the backpack and it's a club cover. So I'm like, I'm going to list these, whatever. Because my latest thing has been, when I do a bulk buy, I'm going to list everything because you never know. So I put it at buy it now and I listed it for $29.99. right? And I got them for probably $1 a piece. So within like less than 3 hours, it sells at full price. And the spelling on the tag was black. Rhino was RHZNO. And I'm like, what? Like, and somebody obviously wanted this.
Hey.
And it cracked me up because I'm thinking, I almost donated these, club covers. I did toss 2 of them out because they were kind of too messed up. But so 2 things that came out of that. Number 1, you never know. Like, it's the beauty of eBay. Like, you never know. Like, I have some other ones. Like, one's a gray wolf, one's a sea turtle, and I'm thinking of these top tier individuals golfing, and some guy with the glove cover, a black rhino. Like, who's gonna? Now, not saying that everybody that golfs is loaded, right? Because I know a lot of people that barely afford to be able to go to a course, but they love golfing and they go, right? So okay, so I thought that was pretty random that sold. The other one is I'm at the store that shall not be named, and I have my opinions about the place. And so there was, my favorite one, right? No longer is, my feelings not the same about it, but you've seen me go to other stores that shall not be named, and I'll approach, individuals that I know, and I'm like, hey, can we work out a deal? And then usually you've seen me work out a deal. Mm-hmm. So I go to this one, and, there's this Starbucks barista machine, right? And those can go for about $150, but, you don't know if they're working, you're taking a risk. And on the low end, they go for $80. So it was $50. I'm like, $50. I just bought one like 3 weeks ago at another thrift store for half that price, and it was on sale. So, I go to the new management. I'm like, hey, can we kind of work something out on this? She looked at me. She's like, what do you mean work out? I'm like, like work something out. I didn't say it like this. I didn't do movements with my hands. If you were listening to the podcast, I'm doing a little salsa dance. And
hey, you probably
kind of Chris
out at that point.
Kind of Chris Farley salsa dance, small guy, little coat. All right,
work something out.
Yeah, something like that. Well, it wasn't that intense. And she looked at me, like I was crazy, and I'm like, you don't catch what I'm saying? She's like, do you want me to negotiate a price? And I'm like, yes. That's what I mean. She's like, we don't do that. I was like, what do you mean you don't do that? We don't do that. I'm like, what? I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. And I kind of got a little, little perturbed. I'm like, yeah, you guys do that. And you've done it a lot with me. And I buy here all the time. So I don't know what happened to me. Like, I became Hulk, like within like 5 seconds.
Yeah, that's a way to win them over to your side.
I know. I told everything we've read in our level up review went out the window. So then, and then I don't know, when I walked away, I'm like, yeah, well, the old management used to. And then I'm like, what?
But
and in my head, I'm like, Orlando, what are you doing? Like in my head, I'm like, there's, you have the devil on one side and the angel on the other side, and they're having a conversation in my head, and I'm like, what? Like, did I not eat today? Like, what is bothering me? What's the real issue in my life? Well, the problem too was they had 2 pairs of Allen Edmonds that were the same style but different colors, and one was priced at $19.99 and one at $12.99. Forgot about those. So now I'm at the register, and I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, these were, I was wondering if you guys would honor the lower price. These are the same shoes. She's like, okay, let me go talk to my manager. I'm like,
oh no.
I just destroyed any opportunity to make anything happen. Well, she went back, and the manager looked at me and goes, yeah, you know what? Let's just do it. I'm like, thank you. Let me go run into a cave right now.
Yeah. Hopefully you go back in and apologize sometime. You know what might go a long
we're
way?
good. We're good on the way out. Like, we're all good. We smiled and everything. And maybe I should have thrown out an apology.
Yeah. And to be honest, I mean, just to be fair, any business has the right to change policies as long as they're consistent with their policies. Like if they're not willing to make a deal with you because they're not willing to make a deal with anybody, and that's their new policy, I say that's fair.
Yeah, but that's where injustice lies. So let me give you one more example. It just reminded me. So I do a lot of RA, and I have my seller's permit when I do RA. So a certain store I've gone to, Like, they have like locations everywhere. I keep going. And it's been a piece of cake. My name's in the system. I have my seller's permit in a PDF. Like for a while, they're like, you need your paper. And I'm like, well, yeah, but it's in a PDF. It's the same thing. And they're like, oh yeah. I'm like, it's 2019. When I was doing this in Q4, it's 2019. Like PDF should be okay. And everybody's been cool with me. There's this one store that goes, oh, we need a copy of your seller's permit so we could staple it to the receipt. I'm like, what? Why? I'm already in the system. Like, no, we need it. It's a new policy. I'm like, what? So the same lady was telling me this a month ago. And I'm like, wait a second. You're saying it's a new policy? But if it's a new, how come you're telling me this a month ago? She goes, well, we just really never enforced it. I'm like, so it's not a new policy is what you're telling me. You're telling me that now it is. And the cashier lady who's, I'm engaging the manager at this whole time. She looked at me. She goes, I'm so sorry. I knew the moment I looked at you that this was going to happen because I just had to sign something today that stated this policy. So I asked the manager, I'm like, hey, may I see this policy? It's just
oh my gosh, Orlando.
What? No, like how come? Because here's the thing. Every store I've gone to has never asked me. And those of you that have gone sourcing with me, it's true. Not any store, just this one store consistently does this.
Well, then if they're consistently doing that, they have the right to do it.
But if they are, no, they do. Well, they don't. Well, they're private business. They can do whatever they want, blah, blah, blah. Okay. But if every single other store has not done this, why does this store have to do it?
I don't know. But I mean, that's they're right. They can do it.
I guess so. But it's kind of like one of those things like, how come every other policy is like no public restrooms? No, we reserve the right to, not allow a return without a receipt. Like that's all in writing. But the one towards resellers, they can't show me like out of all of them and really irked me. It really bothered me. So what I wanted to say is
the things that bother you, man.
Well, yeah, because I'm there. I'm making a huge purchase. I'm buying more than anybody in line behind me. I'm providing sales to this place, and I go to this store a lot. And out of nowhere, they change policy. So to me, there's a sense of injustice. Number one, when people change policy on a whim. Two, when they tell you there's a policy, but they can't show you what the policy is.
I mean, I could just imagine, though, like if I'm working at a store, you've got a policy, whether it came down from corporate or it's somewhere, and somebody's like asking, well, I want to see it. Like, one, I'd be pretty defensive. I'd be like, well, no, I don't got time to go back and dig out papers and show you and then potentially block out things that might be confidential or like there's all kinds of stuff that come out in like company
But if it's
memos.
guided towards the customer, like, so when I worked at Target and Marshall Fields, Macy's, JCPenney, like every single one of the stores, whenever there's a policy that was directed towards customers, we always had, especially if something that's like, hey, you need this documentation. Like it was always out there. Like we always produced it every single time. It was not a problem. Anyways, I don't know where we were going with this. I think I was talking about the sense of injustice, but this is what I'll say in all of this. So I get a lot of flack sometimes because, people are like, oh, Orlando, da, da, da. Listen, I'm just trying to be real to help you out. And
how's that helping anybody out? I can't imagine.
Don't be a jerk like Orlando.
Okay, I can see
that's what I'm trying to say. Like, I'm trying to be real and say, hey, you know what? I've had these instances. Now, I smoothed things over with the manager at this place, and she did agree with me and said, hey, if you come back with your seller's permit, I'll refund you the tax. All good. So, two things. Don't be a jerk. And listen, I've always said this. I don't care what people think. I don't care what you say about me. I've been down that road. I've had people judge me all my entire life. It's all good. Doesn't matter to me. I'm already, it is what it is. Number two, if I can help others by revealing my flaws, I'm all good with that because that's what we're about here. So if I were to tell you like, oh, everywhere I'm a smooth talker and negotiate and I don't lose my cool, like that wouldn't be real. It just wouldn't be real.
That's fair enough.
So that's what we're here about. So two things. Number one, always remember that you never know why people do things. Like, I don't know why they decided at that moment to pull that policy on me. But in the end, it's a lot better to do things with a smile and keep those relationships because you never know when you're going to need that bridge to walk over. Burning. And I've told you this too, Mike, right? And we've talked about like leaving workplaces. Like you've asked me and I'm like, don't ever burn a bridge. But sometimes I don't follow my own advice. I'm just trying to be real.
I say burn the bridges, man. Burn them down.
Don't burn them. All right. Enough about Orlando and his sense of injustice. Let me hear your random story.
All right. Well, if that's what you consider justice. All right, here we go. So this one's pretty interesting. I'm gonna pull up the exact price here, and we put this on Instagram. But this was fun. So
this is crazy.
I talked about these. I think they were a hustle of the week or a BOLO or something a few weeks ago. But I went to a pretty cool thrift store and I picked up some board games, and I picked up 3 specifically. 2 are the same, 1 was different, and this one was the one that was different. It was a 1968 Whitman stock market game, deluxe edition, and it was complete. Like we checked all the pieces, completely complete. And my wife does the pictures, and I sometimes I do pictures, but she usually does the listings, and she is on it, man. Like she is type A, she's focused, she's like meticulous, like never have a complaint with anything she does. She's amazing. Well, for whatever reason, we don't know whether it was like an eBay mistake or if she just forgot to do it. Who knows? It was a one-off, not a big deal. Pictures didn't end up on this listing, right? Oh, well, we're driving. We don't have access to the pictures. We're like, oh, we'll add these pictures later, right? Like when we get home, sure, that won't sell by then. Mind you, I bought this game for like $2 or $3. I think it was like $1 or $2.50 or $1.98. I don't know, something like that. It wasn't over $3. It was inexpensive, and it sold. No pictures.
Okay, I'm going to ask a question that all the listeners right now are wondering.
How much?
No, not how much. So whenever you list something, it won't let you list it if you don't have a picture.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you look.
How did that happen? Like, obviously, I'm looking at it right now. This is one of the good things about having a podcast, like I said, because there's 2 of us. I can validate. I've showed it on Instagram.
And it says on the bottom, the seller has not uploaded any pictures. Check the item description for details.
Anytime I've like been going too fast and I forget to upload pictures, it always says you need at least 1 picture.
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking it must have been a mistake on their end. Like we must have. Well, you never know. Right? So, I mean, who knows? I mean, I can't imagine that. Yeah, like we would have submitted the listing without putting the pictures, because a lot of times we use the pictures as we're filling in details. So we take pictures of any flaws and stuff like that. And we'll often take a picture of like on a pad of paper, like an electronic paper. We'll write down like sizes and stuff. We'll take a picture of that. And then we use that as we're making our listing. That way we can list at a gas station or wherever. We don't have to be with the item. So I'm sure the pictures were there. For whatever reason, they didn't make the listing. And
it just looks so obnoxious. I'm looking at it right now.
I'm curious though, because I think the way it got posted on Instagram, I don't think it was this high, but it ended up selling for $44.99 with shipping.
No, it was the best offer.
Oh, was it a best offer?
Yeah, best offer, yeah.
So our total though with shipping was $50.44. So $50.44. And I think it cost like $8 for us to ship it. So crushed it on a couple of dollars. And I mean, so that was a great purchase. No pictures.
No pictures.
Now catch this though. A couple days later, we get a message from the buyer.
Oh, I didn't hear this part 2 of the story.
Guess what the message said? Fantastic item. Love it. Thank you so much. Great seller.
So here's the thing. When you shared this with me, I looked up comps because I'm like, maybe it was sold so fast without pictures because you guys like underpriced it. And no, like, I mean, it wasn't at one of the higher price ones, but it was competitively priced. I don't even know how that happened, Mike. See, the reselling gods are shining on Mike and his wife because he kills it in Colorado, crushes it. Then he's able to sell stuff without pictures. Meanwhile, Orlando over here.
And you see what's right underneath of it? The other board game that I bought for the same price, $82.98.
Nice.
Yeah.
Dude, your niche is definitely board games.
Now let me say, board games are a little difficult to ship sometimes. Like
that's true.
One of these, I don't remember which one, but one of them went in. We get some of our paper. Here's a tip for you if you guys don't do this. We get a lot of our paper that we use for packing at U-Haul because it's inexpensive. It's cheaper usually than like Walmart or anything like that. And it comes in a box. I think sometimes at Walmart it comes in like plastic bagging.
But you barely get anything.
Yeah. So this came in a box at U-Haul, and we just finished using all of the paper in it. And I'm like, man, I can't find a box for this board game. And slid right in the U-Haul box. Perfect.
Yep. I actually keep all those boxes for like,
long,
narrow items. I have about like 15 of them in my storage shed.
Nice. So it's a little weird to ship a box with a bunch of eBay tape and it says U-Haul on the box, but hey, it is what it is.
Hey, no one cares. As long as their item is what they want, it's fantastic.
Hey, I've talked in previous episode, man. I've shipped in boxes that say raw chicken on the outside. So whatever.
I don't know. Maybe we didn't have another episode, like our thoughts on thank you cards and nice packaging.
I really do think there's a benefit. I mean, people have mentioned like putting like a little business card or something in there that says like something nice, like, thank you so much for the purchase. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact me. We'd love to make things right.
Yeah, I see that.
That way, and if you could just print out a whole bunch of them, so it's not like you're doing like custom ones.
Like some people do it on thermal printers.
Right. Yeah, you could do thermal printers. That way you might increase the chance that they'll contact you to resolve an issue before they just leave negative feedback, before they're upset, right? Because they know that you're willing to work with them. And the other thing I've seen people do with thermal printers is like a logo of their store if they have like a specific brand or niche. And those are super easy to do. And the other thing that works with the thermal printers I've seen and I've considered doing is like we recycle boxes. So that way when somebody gets a box with like raw chicken on the outside and it's like, thank you for helping us, save the planet.
That's good.
We recycle boxes. We encourage you to do the same with this box, right? That way they're not like, what is this junk they sent me, right? They're like, wow, this company cares about the environment.
Just that virtue signal.
Hey,
just get it done.
It is what it is.
All right. I think it's time for our current topics. But before we do that, if you have not been following us on social media, did I cut you off? Did you have something else? Okay. If you're not following us on social media, we are Puros of Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And, be following us on all three platforms. We're trying to, now Facebook and Instagram, it's kind of the same, but we're kind of dropping some stuff on TikTok and Instagram that are different on each platform. So just keep an eye, and they both, kind of tend to different creation of content. Also, we're on Twitter, Pure Hustle Cast. Appreciate all the people following us on Twitter. Our Twitter has been growing. Like that's, I think, one of the hardest platforms to grow. We're going to probably be post 600 by the time this episode drops. So thank you guys. And if you're listening to the podcast and you want to, see what transpires on the podcast whenever we try to point out to visuals, you can follow us on YouTube, hit that subscribe and hit that notification to be notified when things happen. As always, you can give us a call at 619-738-1170. That's 619-738-1170. You know what? I want to, the Micro Machines guy. Do you remember the Micro Machine guy?
Uh-huh.
The world's fastest talker? Like, I wish we could just find him, have him record all this and just do it.
What I could do is just record you doing it and I'll speed it up and just make it a soundboard. Boom, I'll push the button and we'll just sit here twiddling our thumbs while it goes through.
There you go. Just twiddling. You said twiddling our thumbs.
Yeah.
So if you're watching,
I full on finger twiddled my thumbs.
Okay. All right. Hey, and
how do you twiddle your thumbs? Is that like this?
Like this. Like you just twiddle your thumbs. You just move them around.
Oh, all right.
All right. Hey, you can also shoot us an email at purehustlepodcast@gmail.com. That's purehustlepodcast@gmail.com. And as always, thank you to all of you that have dropped donations in the link below. It's helped us. Not the fingerling edition, but some of the other editions behind us and some equipment that we're borrowing and the green screen that we're going to be, using more.
Yeah.
People wanted some more tunes.
They want us to drop the full album.
The full album. And as always, thank you for the reviews. Always appreciate them. Just grateful. And you know what's awesome about the reviews? That we have more reviews than other podcasts that have been around longer than we have.
Yeah.
That is a testament to how amazing all you listeners are in taking action to just show us support.
Yeah,
thank you.
You guys are a great community, and we want to find some way. We're still trying to figure out how to do it, of like thanking all the people who are leaving reviews. So even if it's just us like shouting out a couple of people every couple of episodes, reading their review, giving you guys a shout out. So if you want to like add like your Instagram handle or something in there, you don't have to, but like we'd like to do something just because it means a lot. We do read them all. So thank you so much for leaving us those reviews. And we talk about algorithms a lot. And honestly, when it comes to podcasts, nothing is more important for getting the word out and helping us to be found than for us to have lots of reviews and to have good reviews, because then iTunes helps push us further up to be found when people are looking up like whatever money, right? Whatever. Like we'll come up higher as we get those reviews. So thank you so much for that.
All right. You ready for some? Do we have a sound?
Not this time. I don't
Not this time. No, you don't want to keep making the
No, I'll keep doing it. I just don't have it ready.
All right. So we have some things that are kind of like on the, hey, keep an eye for. And then we have some practical things today for reseller topics. So the latest talk about the USPS is that they're privatizing.
That would be good.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
Why did you say that?
Well, because and there's a lot of reasons for this, but
we're trying not to get political here.
So for instance, we're in like a small suburb town of San Diego, and there's one post office that's in a reasonable distance from us. And just to be honest, we've had a few good interactions at this post office, but this post office can have the craziest hours.
They take a lunch and they shut down for a half an hour.
Yeah.
Every day. When you show up and you can't drop off your packages,
they have nowhere to drop
off the packages.
They have nowhere to drop off packages. They're in no rush to do certain things. And there's a lot of things, right? Like
and I appreciate them. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
I know them. They're great people, but the hours are kind of interesting.
Yeah. And because there's not an alternative, because there's no reason to get business, it kind of goes with that idea of monopoly, right? Like when one group has a monopoly, it's like the DMV. Like imagine the DMV, you have to go to the DMV. When you're going to get car stuff done, you have to go to the DMV. But when it comes to other things, like you have a choice. Like when you're going car shopping, you can go to whatever car dealership you want. You're able to wheel and deal. Some of them are going to offer you coffee and this, and they're going to have food and like TVs playing because they want people in their place. So when there's only one place, and we do have competition, right? There's FedEx and there's UPS and there's other places. The nice thing about those things is they do have to fight. And because they're fighting for customers, they're willing to oftentimes have cheaper prices for bigger items and do different things that other places aren't. So, I can imagine that privatizing, if you could privatize a USPS, then there's going to be more incentive to like, we need customers here. Like we don't want them to go to UPS. We don't want them to go to FedEx. Because if you're just a worker, and it's true with a lot of places, like if you've got no skin in the game, if it's kind of like, I've got my job, I'm tenured, like I'm not going anywhere, like I'm here, I've got no reason to go above and beyond. But if you got some skin in the game and it's like, if we don't get more customers in here, we're going to like be losing money and that's going to hurt me. I'm going to financially be impacted. Then you're going to have to find ways to have better customer service. How can we get this line moving faster? How can we offer better services? How can we lower our prices? How can we be more competitive? So maybe there's some downsides to it, but overall, I can imagine it would be a pretty good thing.
I don't know. I'm kind of torn between it. I mean, and I don't want to go into the whole political realm of like, the Constitution says that Congress has the ability, to make post office and roads and so on. Like, I don't want to get into that discussion, but I'm kind of, on one side I see it where, I think one of the numbers I saw was that since I think in the last 7 years or something, the post office has lost $67 billion. They've been operating at a loss for year upon year. And by the way, if there's an argument that like, well, we pay taxes. Well, they're not funded by taxes.
No.
Right. It's through their business.
Yeah.
But they've been a losing business.
Yep.
Right. So there's that part. So I understand the reason for privatizing. The other part that concerns me as a seller though is number one, I do like, and again, I'm just speaking as a seller. I'm not trying to get into, we're not a political show or anything. Okay. So it's nice the fact that there's all those free supplies, right? So, all the priority boxes and all that, that's really nice. Now, if they privatize, I don't see FedEx giving free boxes. I don't see UPS giving free boxes, right? You have to buy boxes from there. So that's one concern I have that will go away. Now, if the USPS wants to continue being competitive, maybe they still offer that, right? The other thing is that the post office, even though, it's been, kind of losing a lot of money, has been consistent. For even though packages have been lost and so whatever, I've never had kind of a mistrust that the post office is going to like charge me any higher for an item to get it faster somewhere. Like their prices have been there. This is the way it is.
Right.
Right. And when you start getting into privatization, right, it's, I know I'm not trying to get political here, but private business can do what it wants. Right. So then it's like, okay, what's going to happen to prices? Right? Who's going to set those prices? Is there going to be, is eBay going to be able to broker deals? Now they do have deals with FedEx, right? They do deals with UPS. And so are the deals, the discounts for being a top rated seller and so on, are they still going to be there? Or is that going to be more difficult because now it's going to be more for profit? And so is that some of that going to go away? Right. I'm just throwing the questions out there, from the seller perspective, because I think there's two perspectives on this one. I get one where, the advantage is, is kind of, you always hear that joke. You want to see how things look if the government runs it, go to the DMV. And we all know that the DMV, at least in our experience, is a terrible place to, and no offense if you work at the DMV, I'm just saying it's something that you can, you go there, and it's gotten better, at least I would say, in San Diego. But you sit there and you're there for a long time. Like,
and you're often treated like a criminal just for being there.
Yeah, I've never been treated like you. You've been treated like a criminal?
Yeah, well, like you're going to do stuff like, I'm sorry, you didn't fill this paper. You got to go over to the wrong window and you didn't bring this. Yeah. And it's like, look, I have to be here. Everybody, like, come on, let's just do this.
Okay.
And they're not like, is their website very like user friendly? No, it's the worst website in the world. The worst.
Okay. At least California DMV, yes. So maybe there's other states where it's like phenomenal. You're like, this is the best website ever.
We love the DMV.
Okay.
They're the best.
All right. But at the same time, when there's a stake in it, when people, it's kind of like Adam Smith had talked about, I shared this before in the Wealth of Nations, how the butcher isn't curating the best meats. The employee behind the desk isn't doing their best job for, necessarily because they care about the individual. They care about their paycheck. They care about the profit.
It's a good thing.
So it's an incentive to make a better product. And so,
and the post office is already a unique institution in the sense that it is generating its own revenue, right? Which is very useful. And then it's nice, like you said, that it's a nationwide thing. There's a lot of consistency there. So in my dream world, none of that would change. None of the infrastructure would change. Just maybe some of the model of like, I don't even want to say management, because I don't think it's like necessarily low level management of individual branches, but I kind of just think like if you allowed stakeholders to have more say in things, to run things more efficiently, even if it was an employee driven, like if they made more money as things came in, whatever it is, there's multiple ways of increasing, care in that way. But I think, so the post office is already unique. So it's already a step above something like the DMV where they don't have that kind of incentive to make money. It's just kind of like a tax collection place, right? In some ways, and they just file paperwork. The post office is providing a service, and they do have incentive to bring people into them. And so they do offer services and have things. At the same time, is it possible that a business person would be able to look at their model and say like, there's a way to make more money and make customers happier if we did it this way, or like franchise it out?
Well, I don't know. I mean, playing the devil's advocate, the other side is like right now, flat rate shipping is really nice, right? It doesn't matter where I ship. If I want to ship medium flat rate to Alaska, or if I want to ship it to New Jersey, it's the same price. But is it possible that flat rate goes away? I'm not trying to, scare anyone, but is it possible? Because then it's like, well, it does take more resources to get from point A to point B, right? And that's what concern, or first class. If I send first class to, urban New York or to rural Arkansas, it's the same. And well, it's calculated, so it's a little different. But, as long as it's under, 16 ounces or under, it's around that price. Is it now going to maybe cost more if it goes into a region that's harder to get to?
Right.
Right. And so that's just my concerns there as a seller about what's going to happen. So we're just going to have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah.
So I thought we kept that non-political, apolitical.
Yeah, I hope so.
I hope so. All right. So this was another thing I thought was interesting. I think this was maybe it was a slow news day, and the Forbes decided to write this article, but they had this thing: could Amazon buy eBay in a 2020 cash deal? And they were discussing about how, it'd be profitable for Amazon because, the margins are a lot higher and you can get a lot more fees, right? Blah, blah, because there's less overhead, because like we've talked about before, how eBay is more of like a middleman, right? Because we stock all the inventory. At least now, I wonder if managed delivery is ever going to happen anymore. With the CEO exiting, maybe that's a done deal.
He did not fire himself.
Okay, thank you, Mike. All right, so thank you. Actually, we know that because there were activists on the board that wanted him out. But anyways, he did resign. He did not resign himself. Okay, all right.
He did not resign himself.
Okay, get it. All right. What are your thoughts? What do you think? If Amazon would take eBay, good or bad?
I don't know. I'd probably have to spend a lot of time like analyzing this. I think in a lot of ways, here's the reasons I think it'd be bad.
I mean, Amazon could do it.
I'm a fan of competition, and they're two different markets, but at the same time, they do play into e-commerce. So it's nice having different platforms. One thing, realistically, Amazon is it's a machine, man. Like they have it figured out. Like they're efficient. They've got their coding down. They're user friendly. Their apps are like. I'm not saying eBay isn't intuitive, but you know, realistically, most people understand. Younger generations are going to more easily understand Amazon and Amazon apps and be on there than they are on eBay. And Amazon's got way more data. They've got the algorithms that are a little different. And so if you were able to take all of that and dump it into eBay and like have different designers, web designers, platform stuff, algorithm changes, that could be beneficial in a lot of ways. If the same people who are on Amazon are like, oh yeah, Amazon, and then the Amazon tab has an eBay button and it's like eBay, yeah, and they associate the two together, that could be good, right? The bad part about that is how many changes would come with it. Is it, you know, in a lot of ways, Amazon can be the big bad guy. And I'm not saying they are.
It would be better. They are. Like you think, okay, we all submit to Amazon when we sell on Amazon, right? We agree to their policies, blah, blah, blah. But if you take a look at it, like Amazon, to me, like people, and we've done it, we complain that eBay at times is very buyer centric, not seller centric. But I really think it's the opposite. I think eBay is very seller centric.
Oh, for sure.
And, you talk about, Glitchgate and promoted listings, like eBay listened, like eBay did something. You complain about something on Amazon, it goes to like the netherworld. Like who knows where it goes, right? I mean, how many times have you had an issue with Amazon and you email seller support, you hear nothing, crickets ever. You could be suspended, about to be homeless, and Amazon will not get back to you. eBay will get back to you. eBay will, in some way, not the best way, right? Because we've talked about this, how I personally think eBay needs more of a presence on social media when there's issues, right? Amazon has none of that. The other thing is Amazon's fees are, we complain about, promoted listings. Imagine when you're on Amazon.
Like, yeah, but again, you can't. I feel like it's unfair to even come close to comparing those two things.
But if Amazon were to buy out eBay, why wouldn't Amazon continue that model?
Because it's very different. Like if you were selling on Amazon, they'd use that model. I think they would purchase eBay for a different reason, right? Like they wouldn't like completely put the Amazon model on there, because otherwise, if they bought eBay, I mean, companies can do this. They can buy a company and then shut it down, right? They can buy eBay, shut it down, so they don't have that competition. But I don't think eBay's a competition.
No. Yeah, no, they're not. No, I agree.
So, but again, like it comes down to like the difference between eBay and Amazon. eBay is like a swap meet or a whatever, like a flea market where you buy a booth and you sell your stuff at this booth. They don't care what you're selling. They're not going to come.
But here's the thing. I wouldn't put it past Amazon to what they do with private label right now, or what they do with if there's a hot selling RA item, they will buy that item and tank the price to cut you out of the sales, right?
Yeah, but on eBay, most of the time people aren't selling that kind of stuff. Like they're not going to be able to tank the price on a 1984 Patagonia sweater.
I think Amazon has and I'm talking theoretically, maybe I'm sounding crazy right now, but I think they have the ability to say, hey, if they wanted to jump into the vintage market, the secondary market, they have the funds to be able to say, you know what, we're going to source these items.
You're crazy.
And I am crazy.
There's no way. But they're not sending people out to look through thrift stores to source items like that.
But right now, the data is showing that more people are willing to buy secondhand than retail.
Yes. What I think Amazon would do if they wanted to get into secondary market like that, they would create something like, I can't even remember what it's called, but that one program where people will like send in their old clothes and they kind of
ThredUp?
Yeah, ThredUp. So okay. I think it'd be like that. Like they'll have certain items like you can do with like textbooks at Amazon where it's like send in your clothing items, and if they check it, they'll make sure it like meets their specifications. You'll get like a portion, like a little bit of the money, but you're selling it directly to Amazon, and then they're selling it like on their own. Something like that might happen. But they're not going to be sending out employees to be hunting garage sales.
No, I was just throwing the scenario out. But the scenario you're given is, again, Amazon taking a bigger cut. You know what I'm saying? And that scenario still keeps Amazon taking, and saying, hey, yeah, we love third-party sellers, but here's what's going to take for you to sell on our platform.
Yeah, but they wouldn't do it on eBay, because if Amazon were to buy eBay, I mean, there might be some changes, but they wouldn't change like that. They're looking at the total, the net worth of eBay. Like, how much profit is it bringing in every year? How can they add that to their bottom line? And realistically, eBay's doing the numbers. They're not a dumb company. They're a brilliant company. They're smart. So they recognize that the percentages they're charging with the services they're offering is the market price. If they were to increase their fees too much, they'd lose sellers on the platform. It doesn't matter who's doing it. If Amazon isn't changing eBay to make it all of a sudden where our sales are increasing 200%, yeah, then I'll gladly take a 5% increase on the fees if my sales go up 200%. But if my sales are the same, it's under new ownership, and all of a sudden the fees go up, then you find somewhere else to sell. And then they lose all those sellers. Now the bottom line, instead of being in the black, is in the red. They wouldn't do that. Like, if they could charge those kinds of fees, eBay would already be charging those fees, but the market doesn't let that happen.
Yeah, you might be right.
That's Orlando's way of saying he thinks I'm wrong.
No, I don't think that you're wrong. I think the bottom line is we're all talking in theory, because I don't anticipate any of this happening. I think Forbes was just a slow news day, but I think it's interesting.
So you're saying the last 10 minutes of our podcast was just pretend? Welcome to Imagination World on Fearless Podcast.
No, I just thought, I think it's a great conversation to have, because it highlights why eBay's good and why Amazon's good. I think it highlights both of them. So I thought it was a good conversation to have.
I like it.
All right. So I thought this was interesting. So USA Today came out with this e-commerce better in the 2020s. And they had talked about all the stores that had shut down over this past decade. We had like Toys R Us, and we had Blockbuster and Borders and so on. And I thought, we all know this to be happening. But what I thought was really interesting was their discussion about, what's going to be happening in the 2020s. And they, they had approached different places that are kind of, doing these investigations as to where are things going? Like, what's happening? And this is what I thought was really interesting. They said the brick and mortar downturn is expected to continue, which we already know. According to a report released in April from UBS Securities, investment bank analysts said 75,000 more stores would need to be shuttered by 2026 if e-commerce penetration rises from 16% currently to 25%. And I'm like, that's huge. Like, if you think about that, 8% isn't a lot in the grand, like the momentum that e-commerce has right now, like that's easily going to happen.
Especially with the younger generation. I mean, I think about it like anything. Like, think of all of the revolutions that we've had, right? The agricultural revolution, the industrial revolution, right? Like, each new technology literally doesn't just change the way the economy works, but it changes the way society works. Right. Like, the entire family structures change, where people live, how far people live, transport, like every new big technology change. Think of what the car did, right? Like, it made it where people now, moving away from families and work farther away from where they live. And all those things have ramifications in society and
iPhone. I mean, all of it.
And that's what I'm saying. So if you imagine that happens, I don't want to say it's surprising, but in some ways it's almost surprising that it's taken this long for the internet and for, phones and all those things. But I think part of the reason is we're just now getting to the point where the way economies typically work, or the way it often works in our society, is that when you're young, you make less money. And as you get older, you start to make more and more money. That's just all the statistics show that. Most people right out of high school and college, you just don't make as much. And the more experience you have in the field, the longer you're working, the more money you make. And so if you think about it, the people who are starting to have buying power, people who, when they're out of high school or just out of college are, making a living, are now all of a sudden into the middle class, upper middle class, are starting to really have disposable income. And these are the people who grew up knowing nothing but the internet. So we're finally at the point now where, if, like, my mom is at a point where she buys stuff a lot on Amazon now. Her husband, not a fan of Amazon, right? Like, she was exposed to the internet a little bit more than he was at a younger age. And I think we're just now getting to the point where, like, now people, if you were to ask a kid, young kid, where they're going to buy stuff, it's like, well, I'm going to, on the iTunes store, I'm going to buy this and I'm going to buy, they're buying things online more than they're buying things in stores. Like when you buy video games now, you don't go into a store and typically buy the hard copy of the game.
The DLC.
You buy it on digitally. So it's totally different. And so people's minds are shifting on how economies work. Now we still have, a lot of people in generations that just aren't as comfortable yet. They still would rather drive to the store, go there, because to them, it's scary, it's different. They haven't made that shift yet. And I think give it another 10, 15 years, most of the people with buying power in our society, in our country, are going to be so familiar and comfortable with the internet that those sales are probably going to keep increasing. And I, in some ways, like I said, it's kind of surprising it took so long, but it makes sense that we're finally getting to that point where the generation that has the money was the one that grew up with it. And so, and who knows what the ramifications of that are going to be, right? Like nobody could have really predicted all of the implications of the different revolutions that we've had. It has a lot of impact on a lot of different things. And so who knows what we're going to look back on 100 years from now and be able to say like the internet and specifically social media and e-commerce did these following things. But the fact is, I think people are going to look back and this moment in time is going to be in history books as the e-commerce and digital revolution.
Agreed with everything you said.
Sorry, I got passionate about that.
No, but I to me, it's great to hear in the sense that what we're doing is we haven't even begun. Like there's so much, and we already know that. We talk about it on the podcast all the time, but sometimes I begin to wonder, because how long can this keep going? Like our economy, I think like a year ago, we were having podcast episodes about like, oh, there's talk about a possible recession, blah, blah, blah. Right. And it all depended on, what news site you went to and da-da-da. But now there's no discussion about that. Now it's like, okay, where is business headed in the next few years?
Looks like we already bottomed out is what some people are saying.
Isn't that
already
crazy?
Up. Yeah.
So I hope that to be true. I mean, the only part I was looking forward to was being able to buy some housing in San Diego, but hey, it's all good.
It's all good.
But
you just got to pivot back towards something else.
There you go. But here's the thing. So if you're kind of hesitant about e-commerce, understand that at this moment in time, the way things are looking, it's only going to get better, right? The key thing is adapting, because that's constantly changing. And, we've talked about that on multiple episodes. Things that we sell now aren't entirely different, but they're somewhat different than even things that we sold 6 months ago. The way we sell things are changing sometimes. The way we source is changing sometimes, but ultimately e-commerce is continuing to get better. So, all right. So let's get to some more practical stuff now. This is all like theory, philosophy. All right. Hey, so I got banned by Target Circle.
Nice.
So
congratulations.
Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
Okay. So you know how I had been like talking about how much I love Target and how good they are to me? Like they've gone back to store that shall not be named retail status.
Were you using your resale license there?
No. I just was putting my phone number. And then so one day, I think I had several hundred, I don't know how much, I had some money in my Target Circle. You know how they credit you back. So I'm like, hey, I'll be able to, use this money. And I was going to use it towards my kids' Christmas gifts, actually, which makes it really sad. So I go and there's an error, and please email, Circle support. So I email Circle support and I'm like, hey, I don't know what's going on with my account, but I had money in there and, just wondering. So they don't get back to me until the 26th of December. They get back to me and they write me this email and they basically tell me that based on the activity on your, account, it appears that you're a reseller and, on the guidelines and the policy that we've written, which we will share with you in this email, going back to what we talked about earlier in the podcast, resellers, basically are not allowed to use Target Circle, blah, blah, blah. So they canceled me.
So you were violating their policy?
I guess so.
Where's the justice in that?
No, well, there was the justice. I lost my Target Circle money. But again, you know what happened when I posted this on Instagram? I had so many people tell me, yep, I've been banned. And basically people were saying, and this actually the couponing community was reaching out and telling me, Yeah, we don't share our phone number or anything with anyone, because the moment you do is they begin to track your purchases, and they even will cancel out coupons. So just be aware out there. So maybe Target didn't catch you, but they're coming for you. So if you're a reseller, maybe it's good not to put the information. Yeah, maybe you'll make that 200 extra bucks, whatever, on Target Circle. But what I've been told from those in the couponing community is that they'll go to the point where like they'll track credit cards, and they'll track other information, and they won't even let you purchase at those stores anymore, which they have the right to do. Trust me, when I was assets protection at Target or loss prevention at Macy's, there were actual people that weren't even thieves that we actually banned from coming to the store anymore. That we like personally escorted out. So they have the right to do that, whether you agree with it or not, whether I agree with it or not. It's a moot point. It is what it is. So be aware.
Like it.
You like that? Okay.
It is what it is, man. I mean, it's like the same thing with Disney, right? Like you can't use your Disney pass to get discounts on items to sell on eBay, right? Makes sense, but just don't use your pass, right? You can still buy and resell from Target, just don't use Circle. Like those things are, if it's against their policy, you just got to kind of adapt and find a way around it.
Yeah, or not shop there. Choices you got. So it's free market. All right. This is one that some may not be. I'm not okay with it, but it really seems that eBay is forcing returns. And I have anecdotal evidence. I'll throw it out there. But I've had plenty, multiple DMs from our followers on Instagram and on Facebook and on other platforms that are saying, hey, I sold something. I don't accept returns. eBay made me do the return. Or PayPal 90 days after the fact, I had something on global shipping, and PayPal after 90 days still refunded the customer their money, but they, as a one-time courtesy, they didn't take it out of my balance. So we talked about this before. Like I really get the sense that slowly over time, it won't be an option. Like we're going to have to all do returns.
Yep.
All right. That's part of selling in someone's sandbox. But here's one advice I will give. I would say probably, and I'm throwing out random arbitrary numbers, I'll admit that, but it seems that 90% of the people that had DM'd me about these return issues is when people DM me and ask me, Orlando, what do I do? eBay, it seems like they want me to do a return. I say, hey, check your description and check your pictures. Because here's what I find. If there's one flaw, one thing that is off, that's it. You're going to have to do the return. So be aware of that. I think the one go-to that you can go to is, as long as your pictures are accurate and your description is detailed and it shows exactly, and whatever the buyer is not happy about, I don't believe eBay is going to force a return. But if they can find that one thing, then you're stuck with that return. So just be aware that returns are going to be part of doing business. That's my 2020 prediction, is that
returns are part of business.
No, that as far as eBay goes, I think it's going to go to a place that you're going to have. They already make you do a return. There's that money back guarantee that they'll still make you do the return. You had some of that, didn't you? Haven't you kind of?
I don't know.
Where like you didn't want to give a return, and then you call eBay and they're like, well, there's the money back guarantee, and if they want to do the return, you have to still accept it.
Yeah, we've had some weird things where people want to return stuff for the most random reasons, and yeah, it's kind of just like, it doesn't even matter what the reason is. They get it and they decide, you know what, like, didn't like it, or I bought another one somewhere else cheaper, and it's not because there was anything wrong with the item. But yeah, I now have free returns on my
oh wow, you went to free returns.
Well, returns, they pay shipping, so I guess that's not free returns.
Okay.
Yeah. But instant returns.
Yeah. Okay. So anyways, just thought I'd bring that to the light. All right. And this last one. So I've always theorized this, and now there's a situation that happened. So the Funky Cold Medina's, Fernando, a good friend of ours. So what ended up happening is, I think he's okay sharing this, but a lot of people have had this scenario where they've sold certain items and they get a Vero whether it's a suspension or a deactivation of a listing, blah, blah, blah. And so there's certain brands out there that you can't sell to every country. And that company is very clear about that. So if you do sell to a certain country, you can get a Vero listing, which could result in multiple things. One, it could just kind of slap on the wrist where it's like, hey, we've taken down your listing, you can't sell this item. Or it could go to a 3-day restriction, or it could go to a 7-day restriction, or it could go to a permanent ban, right?
Can you give me an example of an item that you can't ship to another country?
So let's say it's Nike. So Nike, you can't sell to all countries, right? So here's my workaround, right? And again, what's our legal disclaimer? Like,
Pierce Podcast is not responsible for anything.
Okay, that works. All right.
Legally.
Legally, okay. So
I said it. It's the law.
Okay, so here's the deal. So I've always believed, and I never said this on the podcast, but that global shipping works as a deterrent to be veroed, if that's a word, by eBay on international sales. And this is why. So let's say it's Nike. eBay global shipping will not allow you to send a product via global shipping if it's not allowed because it's under eBay, right? So whenever you do global shipping, it's as if you are shipping domestic, right? Because you're not sending it international. If you send it international, it's all on you. So eBay is going to make sure that whatever happens doesn't work against them because it's them. They are the ones that are in turn shipping the product. They don't want to lose money at customs. They don't want to lose money in shipping. They want to still make their profit, right? If you do international, it doesn't matter. You're going to be the one that loses everything. So it's kind of interesting. So Fernando actually called eBay and I had asked them and said, hey, I'm kind of interested here. Like, what's going on? Like, what if we did global shipping? What is the scenario? So I'm just trying to pull this up on my phone. And basically the scenario was that they said, because I told them, I said, hey, ask them these questions. I want to know. Now, again, depends on the representative that you get.
Right.
Okay. But they said, you had to ask, okay, number one, if I did it through the global shipping program, would I have issues with Vero? And they said no, because it's through eBay. And obviously if it's through us, we're going to only ship to whatever is allowed. And number two, if I ship through global shipping, is it basically like I'm shipping domestically? And they said, yes. So this is my advice. Again, people go back and forth, do I international? If I do international, I'm going to get a lot more sales because people don't want to pay the global shipping prices. But if I go global shipping, I'm losing money because there's, vice versa. Here's the thing. Here's another reason why I love eBay global shipping is that in turn, I don't have to worry about any Vero situations, about getting suspended, about getting restricted, about blah, blah, blah. Because in the end, if eBay allows it through global shipping, it's on eBay. And if I ship it, I'm only shipping domestically. So make sure, that you think things through, especially if you've been Vero listed already or whatever it's called. I don't know what the exact wording is.
You've been Vero'd.
Whatever it may be. Because in the end, global shipping provides another, wall of protection from having these things happen to you. So just something to think about when you're considering, hey, do I want to do global shipping on a certain item or a certain brand? So that is kind of great advice. I'm thankful that Fernando took the time and asked. So thank you, the Funky Cole Medinas, for following through all that on Instagram. Check them out. So with that being said, I think that's all our reseller topic. It's for that time for an amazing I didn't even do my moves on that one.
You missed it. That's all right.
It's all right. I'm really intense because I'm thankful for that info. That to me, that's some great info.
I like it.
To me. All right. What's your bolo?
So this comes from our trip out in Colorado. That first thrift store that I mentioned of like the two sister stores, as we're checking out, we see on the back of their register, like behind the guy, is a jacket. It's $150. And we're getting a lot of like North Face and Patagonia stuff for like $15. So I'm thinking
$150.
$150 seems like a lot, but it was red tag and red tag was 50% off. So I'm like $75. What is it they're trying to charge $150 for? So like he's flustered because I've got like bags and bags and bags of stuff and I'm trying to check out and there's all these people behind me. And now I'm being even more like demanding. I'm like, can I see that jacket up there? And so he grabs it and he hands it down. He's like, well, do you want this? Or can I just help the people behind you? And I'm like, hold on. And so I'm like, you can help them if you want, but like, I'm probably going to take this. So I'm looking it up and I had never heard of this brand before and probably should have. And I think I've actually seen it on other people's Instagrams, but this isn't the kind of stuff that I've seen here in the wild on my own. So it's not like something I'm looking out for, but when a thrift store is putting something up for that much, it's triggers you, right? Like to look at. Anyways, it was a Montclair, I think that's how you say it.
Yeah, I think
jacket.
So I think so too.
Yeah, so a Montclair jacket, like pretty much pristine condition. There's like a little bit of staining on the bottom, but it's like a kind of like a puffer jacket. And we're looking up comps on this thing, and like used are going for like 400 plus. Right, some 500, 600, 700.
Nice.
Some of them are going closer to 1,000 depending on the model. And so we're thinking, even if we sell this thing for $300, $400, it's going to be a killer deal, right? Like it's going to sell, I'm sure. $75, even if it only sells for $300 or $400, we're going to make a lot of money there. If it sells for a lot more than that, hey, we're going to be even happier. We need to do a little bit more research, but it's a bolo because some of you guys might already know Montclair. I don't normally give bolos that are like super high-end stuff that almost you never find. But maybe that if you're in a different state, maybe it's something you see more often. So keep an eye out for it. And even if it's not something you see very often, if I was just flipping through racks at a thrift store in like California, I might not have even looked that up, right? I might have been like, no. So now I know if I ever see a Montclair, pick it up.
From bolo to possible hustle of the week.
Yeah, we'll let you know. Stay tuned.
Mike's moving on up.
That's right. I'm thinking about buying a new car once I sell that Montclair.
Get that Lambo.
Woo woo.
All right. So mine is jacket related, and I like giving practical things that are generic at times, but I don't know if that even makes sense. So one thing that I found the other day, and you know, if you go to our TikToks, it's in one of our TikToks. I can't believe I said that. So there's these jackets that I call them stowaways. Some people call them packable. You ever seen those?
Yep.
Right. So they're usually you find in the inside, there's a zipper pocket. Right. And what you can is you can pack up that whole jacket inside that zipper or that pouch, whatever.
That's some magical stuff. You can pack the jacket inside itself.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Now, that's a bolo because those things sell fast. I mean, it depends on brand. But for example, I found an LL Bean one. It was $5.95 at the thrift. And here's what happened. I looked at all the listings. A few things that you need to do when you list these. Number one, you need to use keywords. Packable. I use the word stowaway. And then when I did that, people are like, why didn't you use packable? I'm like, I don't know. I just refer to them as stowaway. Stowaway or packable, which makes more sense?
Can you use both?
Yeah, you can use both. I'm just wondering.
Both. Spam it up, man.
Spam it up. All right. The other thing is, if it's Gore-Tex, even more money, right? Pretty much anything that's Gore-Tex, I'll pick up unless it's, some random brand I've never heard of. Right? So this LL Bean jacket, I listed it. I used the word Gore-Tex. I used the word packable. I used the word stowaway. I used the word rain in it. Okay. All the comps were around 40 to 50. I sold mine for 70. And I actually had it listed for $99.99, and I took a lower offer of $70. I'm looking at this exact same listing of this jacket that somebody sold. They sold it for $23.99 with $6.75 shipping. But if you look at their pictures, they have no pictures of the jacket in that little pouch. Like, you need to have that picture.
It's just lazy. You got to do the work, man.
Well, it shows the product, right? I mean, it separates you from the crowd. Right. And their keywords, I mean, they had packable, but that's kind of where it ended. Right. So the bolo is, if you ever see a rain jacket, always look on the inside and see if they have that pouch. Right. Because it'll say stowaway, it'll say packable. It might not say it, but there's a big zipper pocket on the inside. it may be one that you can pack inside itself.
Yeah, and I'm sure the people at the thrift store would love to see like taking a jacket and rolling it up and like shoving it into a little ball. They'll be like, what is this? They'll all be watching you. Like,
as long as you don't put it under your coat. Yeah. And here's the thing. It's easy to ship because then once it's in that pouch, you put it in the padded priority and you're good to go. You know what makes me sad? I had a North Face one of those in the 90s. And I think I put it in a pouch and then I left for college and I never saw it again. I think one of the reasons is because it was in that pouch. Makes me sad because it's like a $300 jacket now if I had it. So anyways, Bolo. Packable stowaway jackets.
We all make mistakes.
I make plenty. A lot. All right. What are you looking forward to?
Oh, man.
Should we do a Bolo sound one more time?
All right. Here we go.
All right. That's our Bolos. Bolo. It's hard because it's not as loud in the studio.
Yeah.
So you're like grooving. I'm like, is it on?
Yeah. Just do like a cool, like, it doesn't matter what the melody is. It'll be
Night at the Roxbury kind of deal. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyways, I guess I'm kind of looking forward to, and I don't know if it's going to be necessarily this week, but it's going to be soon. And this has been something that's been in the making and I've talked about on Pure Hustle Podcast for about a year and a half now. But we're really looking at sending in our first Amazon shipment.
Yes.
We have a few odds and end things that I think will make the list. And then of course we have those 14 plus 3 books.
14 plus $3.
Yeah, I mean it's all the same, but they're priced differently. 14 at $1, 3 at $3, and it's a really, really low ranking book, like pretty significantly low. So I'm excited to get those sent in and kind of to see how Amazon works. Honestly, just to be completely upfront, I don't think I'll ever do Amazon the way you do Amazon, but I do think I want to have that as a tool where I can send in certain things and kind of do it a little differently. I don't know if I'm going to be like the retail arbitrage. Go crazy. Maybe if I find a niche, but I think that would kind of be where it ends. If I find like a product or two where it's like, hey, I'm making some money, I'll just keep doing this. I just don't know if the Q4 Amazon thing's for me, but you never know.
I hear you. We'll talk about that more in Q4 because I may be changing. Who knows? Yeah. All right.
What about you? What are you looking forward to?
Okay, so I'm going to, the one I'm not looking forward to, but I'm looking forward to thing is organizing for taxes. Now, we may have a special guest that deals with taxes in the future. So if you have any questions that's tax related to reselling, either hit us in the DMs or send us an email or, you know what, leave us a voicemail.
That would be great.
Because we can play that on the air. So just give you a heads up. We're still working on that. Don't know when that's going to happen, but I thought I'd throw that out there now because, you know, the more questions we have, you know, the better that we can pull from and ask the person we may interview.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, yeah, I want to, you know, it sounds weird because a lot of people are like, I'm done with my taxes. And that's awesome. I'm not. And so this next 2 weeks, I'm looking to organize all my receipts, get my mileage done, and start meeting with my tax person to get things finalized. So I know how much I have to pay when April 15 hits. Now, I already have, you know, the self-employment, you know, when you preemptively pay, I already have some of that. But, you know, it all finalizes by April 15 when we get all the numbers in. So I want to know as soon as possible so I can work extra hard if I need to pay taxes.
Yeah.
So gotta love income tax. All right.
One of my favorites.
Look forward to it every April 15, birthday cake and everything.
Let me get more of my money away. Yeah. Take it, please. I don't want it anyways. I've worked so hard to give it to you. Please take it all.
All right. All right. The other thing is I've been talking about focusing back on eBay. My goal. I'm going to write this. No, I'm not going to write it down every day.
Yeah. Write it down every day.
Okay.
Make your bed.
Okay. I make my bed. Okay. To get to 2,000 eBay listings by the next update episode.
So you're going to do 10,000 listings.
No, 2,000.
20,000?
2,000.
20,000 listings.
No, 2,000.
10x, man.
No, I'm not going to 10x. No. Here's the thing. I tried doing this a month and a half ago and it just didn't happen.
See, but if you had a goal of 20,000 and you treated the next few days as if you're trying to get 20,000, you'd reach the 2,000 like easy peasy.
It's so impossible. It's like so impossible. Like I can't even tell you how impossible 20,000 listings in 2 weeks is. So
you don't got the 10x mindset, man.
I want to get Grant Cardone on our podcast. I'll see if we can make it happen.
Yeah. If any of you guys know Grant Cardone, if you're like, you're like a second cousin or something.
What if you're just a first cousin or a brother or a sister or something?
Yeah, whatever you are.
Why does it have to be second cousin?
I was just throwing, I'm just saying, you can't be too far removed. If you know him in any way, shape, or form, hit us up, hit him up. It'd be sweet.
Let's make this happen. All right. Anyways, okay. So my goal is 2,000 eBay listings because I really feel that with 2,000, I'm gonna hit a sweet spot going into the summer slowdown. Yeah. So if I can get it done before mid-February, I'll be happy. So that's my goal.
I like it.
And I think that's it. That's it.
Is it?
Wow.
Oh, well, we're done.
That's it. All right. Okay. So with that being said, make sure to be real.
Be relevant.
And be reselling. Please.